I met my limit, so that's it.
Sure you want to be here?
Yes, I do.
Are you absolutely sure?
I'm positive.
Whatever you have to do, just find an excuse to win. Keep going.
It pays to be a winner.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Cold War Radio Live, your number one source for government and political talk anywhere, coming to you from God's Country Studio, nestled on the bank of the mighty Allegheny River, and directly from the Shenandoah Valley Studio in Virginia. Please come in, Jack.
Hey, Hutch. Hey, everyone in the Spreaker chat room and all those folks tuned in. Glad to be here. And if you hear a random dog barking in the background, it's just my guard dog on the front porch.
Gotta have that. Watch. Follow me on Spreaker, ladies and gentlemen. Like the Facebook page, facebook.com/Cold War Radio 22. You can catch the show on your Roku via Blueberry or YouTube. The 405media.com. Cold War Radio is an iHeartRadio program. You can get the free Cold War Radio app in your app store, no matter what type of smartphone you have. You catch the show on Spotify, iTunes. The email is hutch@steelcityresistance.com. The Cold War Radio patron hotline, 412-567-4737. 1460 if you'd like to be on the show. Chat room is up on Spreaker, like Jack mentioned. It's the best place to be. If you can possibly be around at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the best way to check the show out is with the Spreaker chat room, the best on the internet, and it is up. Please go to steelcityresistance.com and make sure you catch the research room there. There's just a plethora of material in there to give you ammunition when you are debating people that don't really understand the world. You can also become a Cold War Radio patron or donate a single time to the program on the website, steelcityresistance.com. I want to thank Kelly K., Jim W., and Valerie Z. for either becoming Cold War Radio patrons or upping their game. Thank you very much. Now, let's talk about Monday for a second. I'm out here at my camp, and sometimes, let me just tell you what I did. I bought a beat-up old mobile home in the mountains, and the roof leaked, and I replaced the roof. I've got a metal roof on it, but the floorboards are rotten in a lot of places. And I got my battle buddy. That's what the new Deep State Army calls your buddy, is now your battle buddy. But for 17 years, I had to call him out of retirement, and he came up. And once we started digging, I had every intention of doing the show on Monday. I even told him. But we didn't finish the work until we started at 7 and we ended at 7. And 7 I was in no shape to do a show without having researched or anything like that. It wouldn't have been a good show, so I decided to cancel it about 3 p.m., and I apologize, and I will make that episode up. I apologize especially to Norway, if he's listening, because he obviously, he always prepares well for the shows. So, anyway, there it is. It was in your best interest. It wouldn't have been a good one. I was really beat. But that's what happened on Monday, and it could happen again, but I'll still strive to do what I can to give you 3 hours, and on a consistent, regular basis. I do plan around the show schedule. It just I didn't realize we were going to be that much involved in the work like that. Once you open the floor up, you got to finish the job. I mean, and we replaced 16 feet of floorboards, 33 inches wide. But that being said, we had to replace all the studs and all the we had to reinforce the joists and things like that. So it was a pain.
When you open up the floors like that, you open up another, all the supporting things that you have to replace, and it gets larger. But hey, it's good to see that the Cold War Radio outpost is getting solid. Yeah,
and by the way, I'm soliciting suggestions for names for the camp. I'll tell you what the camp's now. I can't, because then I'd give away my location. I don't want to do that. This is my bug out joint. So anyway, I'm looking for names. So if you want to send me any suggestions, send it an email. I can't. I'll never come back to the chat to look for them after the show's over. So anyway, Jack, we got a whole lot of things going on here. Right now, there's some people that are upset with Congress and their spending, and I'm one of them. And I'm absolutely disturbed that so many Republicans are so on board with this madness. I just want to let me play a clip, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
Senators on Tuesday voted 93-7 to pass a sweeping $854 billion spending bill that includes funding for the Departments of Defense, Health and Human Services, Labor and Education, which make up the lion's share of total government spending. 6 Republicans, including Jeff Flake, Mike Lee, Rand Paul, David Perdue, Ben Sasse and Pat Toomey joined Bernie Sanders in voting against the bill, which also includes a short-term stopgap bill to fund the rest of the government through December 7th and prevent a shutdown that would start October 1st. Passage of the sweeping package of defense and domestic spending marks a significant victory for Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who has dedicated weeks of floor time to government funding and avoiding another catch-all omnibus bill less than 2 months before the midterm election, where control of Congress hangs in the balance.
Now, this disturbs me on many levels because why you know that Flake, Sass, and probably Toomey are voting against it just because they're never Trumpers. But I just can't believe that there's that many rank and file Republicans that do not get it.
83-7. 100 senators, so what, 10 no votes? Or and that list that they named that voted against. Bernie Sanders, obviously, he voted against it because it wasn't enough,
Right.
money. But this just looks like the hurrah for Paul Ryan and his the folks that he supports, like Chamber of Commerce and all those groups.
How much was the omnibus? It was about the same.
This one, I mean, they're trying to, I don't know if they're playing word games by saying that they wanted to avoid another omnibus bill.
But they might as well do an omnibus. It's the same amount.
Yeah. And also that there's no funding for the wall. Right.
And they champion that we paid for the military, but what about the omnibus? How many times do they need that many billions of dollars? This is beyond crazy. And I think you should veto it.
Exactly. He's threatened to shut down the government this October, I believe, and I think he should, because that's a wake-up call. I mean, they keep threatening. During the first 2 years of President Trump's administration, when have you seen the Senate vote 83 votes for on anything?
Right, and that ought to tell you all you need to know.
Exactly.
This is sickening. It really is. I mean. It's like we don't count. That's what this is. I hate to use words of the day, but this is unsustainable.
And they slide it in under the radar, right? Very few outlets reporting it and they're promoting it. They're promoting sensationalism, accusations against the Supreme Court nominee.
Let's go to that, because I don't have any notes on that, because it was just overwhelming the news, and I didn't want the show to become about it, but I just want to talk about this nomination for a second. I have not been madder at the Congress and at the media than I have been on this issue in quite some time. It is absolutely embarrassing to me that we have all these professional media outlets allowing these think back of what we've learned over the last year, of how many sexual deviants there are in the Democrat Party. Every single one of the Me Too people that got nailed were all Democrats. And most of them were heavily donating Democrats. Not to mention Menendez and all the rest of them. And for that party to get so indignant about something that a dude did in high school.
Yeah, allegedly.
Right. But even if he would have done it, he's in his teens.
And you have the number 2 man at the DNC, current congressman, future attorney general of the state of Minnesota, currently being accused, and they're basically pulling the Bill Clinton on his accusers.
It drives me nuts. And I mean, this guy, not only that, this guy is in a political operation called Islam that is okay with issuing forced clitorectomies on women. The whole thing, and there you have Brett Baer standing there like he's some good guy, and you got all the rest of them. They're not worth a dime for what they don't report. And it's getting worse and worse. and we'll get to that later on in the show. But I don't know where this all leads. There's nobody out there except for O'Keefe that's doing their job. And then we go to now we have a marijuana industry, Jack, and they're pushing. You know how I am very adamant about controlling the language, about being in charge. You know, the English language is the English language. Stop changing it. Well, the marijuana industry is pushing to eliminate the word stoner, drawing applause, anger, and confusion. Well, the part about the marijuana industry that really ticks me off, I don't care if you smoke dope. I don't care. You know, don't drive a car and get in my way. But when you have this entire quote-unquote industry and media and politicians trying to tell me that all these people want is something with a medical purpose, they're full of it.
Yeah, I saw this coming when the first few states legalized it. And I'm like you. You do what you want to do on your own time as long as it doesn't affect me, then I'm cool with it, you know. But, you know, right now there's laws in place. But when I saw these test beds, Colorado, I think now Washington, Oregon, but it was put out there sort of as a test bed, and the people were like freaking out. Oh, it's going to be legal and all. I said, it's not going to be legal in the entire United States until the big corporations position themselves to capitalize on it.
But they're still sitting there. They're still lying and trying to make people believe that it's for medical purposes.
On some places, yeah.
0.0009%. You know what I mean? A real small percentage of people with bone cancer, maybe, or something. And I'm not. They can do whatever they want, but I'm talking about millions of people and millions of dollars. These people are smoking to get stoned.
Well, it's not just, you know, the smoking aspect of it. You had the first year of Colorado's legalization. They had a lot of issues with young kids and stuff because they were putting out candies.
Oh yeah, oil and everything,
and you know, cookies, whatever stuff laced with this, and they were having a lot of issues with, you know, kids grabbing their parents' bag of brownies or something and being sick. I seem to recollect there might have been a couple that were pretty bad shape, but that's when I saw that going on. That's the test bed. They're trying to ferret out and see how they can make it legal. But the main thing with that is I just see major. I wouldn't be surprised if big tobacco and then big pharma is going to try to get in there.
Well, they do it with everything that's illegal.
The medical act.
They do it with everything that's illegal. And just to Rolly Shinto or Shinlo in the chat room, never saw you before, but he says, I know 5 people that died waiting for medical to be legalized while they suffered. Well, I mean, first of all, if they would have got it, they would have died anyway. And second of all, I have no problem with you getting it, with those people getting it. They could get whatever they want. You know, I don't see how. I'm from the era that did a lot of this stuff, so I can tell you that I've touched it before, and I don't see how it does anything for pain, but I guess it does. But whatever. I mean, it's plenty of it out there. You should just go get it anyway. Anyway, I'm not trying to be harsh to those people. That's not the people I'm addressing. I'm addressing the millions of people that are full of shit. That I know a lot of them. You know, and then they're trying to bring this in on the culture like it's the next aspirin or something. Come on, man, give me a break.
And trying to get rid of the word stoner.
Yeah, I mean, see, that tells you all you need to know right there.
That's got heritage right there, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
goes way back.
All right.
Now all of a sudden it doesn't exist.
Right, just get rid of it. Now, this clip it's a little bit long. It's 5 or 6 minutes long, but I want you to listen to this. And the reason that I'm playing this is Governor Moonbeam from California. He's at a climate change summit, which is an extortion plot. I want you to listen to his words, how deep he gets, especially toward the end. This guy is sick, and you need to. The reason I'm playing it is because people like Governor Brown, whether or not they believe it themselves, the garbage that they spew, a lot of people that they're spewing it to do believe every single word that he says. Let's listen to Moonbeam.
We're in the midst of hurricanes and the aftermath of hurricanes, and you still have the President of the United States denying the science.
Oh, and Andrea Mitchell, too. Let's not forget. Listen to the how much of the Kool-Aid she's drank.
Science of climate change. How do you counteract that?
Well, first I want to say it's really extraordinary that the president can deny science like that. But he's done so many other what's the word? I don't even have an adjective. So it's bad. And how we counteract it is with this climate summit, with normal people respecting the truth and communicating that.
So if you believe in global warming, you're normal. Then if you don't, you're just a Trumpian, vulgar knuckle dragger.
Beware
with
cattle
farmers. And combating the President of the United States in what are lies, distortions, and quite frankly, bizarre behavior. So we have to keep at it, and I'm glad you gave me a chance to answer your question, because we can't say it enough. The president is just wrong.
The hurricanes are more severe. The wildfires are more severe. The storm surge is worse because sea levels are rising.
Oh, boy.
Talk to me about what we are physically experiencing here in the United States and around the world that proves that everyone who predicted that this would happen was correct.
I would say we're just experiencing the very early beginnings of climate change. The forest fires in California, which are worse than any other time in recorded history, it's really just, unfortunately, it's the beginning. That as the carbon builds up, and it builds up very rapidly, we'll have more drought, more fires, more storms, more intense storms, more trouble. And the worst part is more migration. We're going to have people moving from their land that will no longer produce enough food. So the world leaders have got to wake up.
Now, the exit from the Paris Climate Agreement isn't official and binding till 2020, but what is the impact already internationally of the United States having said we're out of it?
So Trump is an enabler. We often hear that term, enabler. He's an enabler of climate negligence and climate avoidance. So that's what's bad about it, because we have to make sure that all these other countries, whether it's Russia or Poland or in South America, Brazil, whatever that
doesn't even mention China.
Everybody's got to step up.
Or India.
And the President of the United States should be the cheerleader, the exemplar, and instead he's the saboteur, and that's tragic.
Here at the climate conference, you face protesters. The Democratic Party has divisions. How do you handle that? But some people say you're not even, despite your leadership on this issue, that you're not doing enough.
We're not doing enough. No one is. I do believe, though, we're doing more than anyone else, and that's not enough. So the protesters want to get the oil out of the ground, get it into the ground faster, and I think that's a noble thought. But I think what we're seeing in the protests, you're going to see more incoherent, disruptive reactions, because people are going to say, gee, if this climate change keeps going, it could be the end of the world as we know it, or it could be a very deteriorated world. So kids are going to react, and they're going to do whatever they can to wake everyone up. So I would take these protests as a wake-up call.
As a governor, how do you feel when the President of the United States says that nearly 3,000 people did not die in Puerto Rico, even though it was the result of a scientific study?
Not a body count.
It's a Democratic conspiracy to claim all these deaths.
Well, the problem is we never had a president who is engaged in this behavior. I mean, he's not telling the truth. He keeps changing his mind. He's, sabotaging the world order in many respects. So it's unprecedented. It's dangerous. And hopefully this election is going to send a strong message to the country. The Democrats will win. And then Trump, something's got to happen to this guy. Because if we don't get rid of him, he's going to undermine America and even the world.
What do Democratic candidates say in, let's say, Indiana, in West Virginia, and other states where you've got Donald Trump, when he campaigned, getting the coal miners and others to feel that this is all threatening their livelihoods?
It's a real problem. I mean, Trump won West Virginia 85%. That's real, and any politician has to deal with that. So the rest of the country has got to find ways of keeping their ambition and raising it to take climate action. But in terms of these other coal-impacted countries, we're going to have to find real dollar investments to help those people.
So got to get rid of them, Jack. Got to get rid of this guy.
Have you heard 5 minutes of BS worse than this? This is the governor of California.
And I mean, it wasn't just him. Andrea Mitchell was half of that.
Oh, she's in there. Well, she was married to the former Fed chairman, I believe.
Oh, that's not a good visual either. Not at all. Greenspan.
But he's out there. He's out there talking about the forest fires, the wildfires in California are going crazy. And we had a show and we discussed the proper forest management.
Sure.
And California's failing to do it. Right.
Right. And I mean, Norway and I did one on the financial aspects and the tyrannical aspects of climate change, which had to be climate change because global warming is not true. And in the 70s, it was global cooling, and the new ice age was coming.
Friday we had the reports of on the Weather Channel where they're pushing the global warming thing. And then after we did the show, it was the funniest thing. The next morning I saw that one of their reporters was out there doing his damnedest to look, like he's in the fierce part of the storm, Mike Seidel, and he's leaning the wrong way.
Oh, that was awesome.
Doing his report, and the next thing you see is two guys walking behind, just like nothing's going on.
The sad part about it, too, is I used to always trust the Weather Channel because their owner even came out and said climate change is BS, and they've said several times that this is not a global warming event. This is a weather event. It's been happening forever.
I think that was the original owner of them.
Oh, okay. I think so. Al Gore probably bought the place.
Because they've been pushing this, right on board with the MSM, pushing this global warming. I'm sure they stockpiled a whole lot of photo ops, with the swollen rivers. And here you have folks actually suffering through this storm because of the way that it came through. I mean, you've got almost just over 3 dozen lives lost so far. We had 2 in Virginia from tornadoes, and they're still not at peak flood down in North Carolina. I think it's supposed to be Friday when they can start thinking about some areas there where the water will start receding, and they can start fixing roads because you had major roads washed out. You had
interstates.
Yeah,
I-95.
I-95 corridor in Carolina. I think today the South Carolina said I-95 is clear, but there's still a lot of places in North Carolina where it's impassable. So
I'll tell you, the eye of the storm, you kept seeing Cape Fear and the Cape Fear River. Well, the next township next to Cape Fear is Fayetteville, and Fayetteville is where the headquarters of the Army Reserve is, and Fort Bragg, and not only Fort Bragg, but also FORSCOM is there. If you know anything about the Army, FORSCOM is the command that commands all the units.
SOCOM's still there, isn't they?
Part of it, yeah. A lot of it's in Florida, I think. But a rough the visuals from the air of the neighborhoods, man, big time rebuild. But I heard Senator Burr, who's been in the Senate for a long time and a North Carolina senator, I think. Either north or south. I think it's north. It was his district, one of his districts. He said that, his district, obviously he's a senator, his state. But he said that he's never in his life seen a more coordinated response, considering the cooperation and the preparedness of the local, state, and federal response. He said they were responding and doing physical work a week before the thing hit.
Yeah, it's been amazing. You don't want to lose any lives, but so far, even the looting, the bad things that you saw, and other things like the looting was minimal. Most of the folks that were in that region got out of there. They're trying to get back, and they're getting stir crazy. They want to go back home, but they're saying you hold off for a few more days. It's not. wait till after Friday and let us get these roads checked to get cleared up. And they would be smart to do that because, they're probably taxed to the max and doing their little rescues. They're even down there rescuing animals and pets.
They even had the Civil Air Patrol out there, which is like the Boy Scouts for militant kids, like me. But Paul D says FORSCOM used to be in Atlanta. Yeah, you're correct. It was at Fort McPherson in the middle of the ghetto. But they moved it over to Fayetteville 10 years ago or so, something like that. I've been to both. So anyway, there's that. Now, when a new CEO takes over or a new general takes over or a new president takes over, normally what they do is they come in and they mold the staff around them in their own image. President Clinton got rid of all of the DOJ lawyers. It's just the way things work, except for President Trump. He failed to do that. He should have done more on his first day, but he didn't. And it's probably because he was not a politician, and some of the people that he surrounded himself at first were, and they were deep state people. And so he didn't, and he ran into trouble. Let's listen to Hillary Clinton. What do Hillary Clinton, Governor Brown, Joe Biden have in common, Jack? I'll tell you, they're all failed presidential candidates. They're all losers. None of them can win anything. Let's listen to Hillary.
What I worry about, Rachel, is that after this election, this president's going to wholesale fire people. That's my prediction for tonight, like my prediction from last year. And if we don't have one or both houses of Congress in place, he will be even more uncontrollable and unaccountable. He will fire people in the White House. He will fire people in his administration who he thinks are crossing him, questioning him, undermining him. And I think about all of the hours I spent in the Situation Room with President Obama. And we had vigorous disagreements about all kinds of issues. But I never, ever, ever doubted that the president was making the best decision he could based on the facts and the evidence as we were required to present it to him. He didn't say to us, well, here's what I believe. Here's what my gut tells me. He said, what's the evidence? What are the facts? What are the consequences from, path A to path Z? That's not happening in this White House. And so the president is close to being uncontrollable. There are people still in there who, by their own admission, are trying to hold on to prevent even worse things from happening. And at some point, the American public has to say, number one, I may disagree with Democrats. I may disagree with, the direction of this administration. But one thing I believe in is we have to have checks and balances. That's why we have to vote for Democrats in November.
She must have been smoking some of that medical marijuana or something, because she looked absolutely like in charge. She wasn't not in charge, but she had everything together. She didn't look as bad as she normally does.
Oh, she practiced that script, and she'd been watching too many Apprentice reruns, obviously, and checks and balances. And she's acting. I mean, when she's talking about protecting things that are going on in the government, it's protecting the swamp. Is exactly what she's talking about. She's not looking out for you or me.
No,
she's looking out that big gigantic swamp that's taken decades to build. And that is what's being threatened. And
I think there's
people are threatening it.
I think there's going to be some major fallout when this stuff gets declassified. But we'll get to that in a second. I want to give you one real fast clip of how they do politics in the Democrat Party in Illinois. And if you think this is just in Illinois, you're nuts. And the problem that I have with this, and with the Kavanaugh hearings, with this bimbo that comes out 35 years later that said she was playing spin the bottle at the high school party and somebody touched her, or whatever her case is I can't believe that there are this large of a percentage of Americans that are this evil, that aren't not even concerned about the truth or about fairness or anything else. Can you imagine this guy's daughters listening to this, Anyway, let's listen to some Democrat leader in Illinois at a political rally.
We got a great candidate for governor, J.B. Pritzker. He's going to win. He's going to win big. But he won't win if we do not get out and vote. We need to early vote. Like I say, we can play East St. Louis rules, vote off and vote early, vote off, and whatever you can get away with. I shouldn't say that, but I really don't care.
No, we know you don't care. We know half America doesn't care, and it's going to bite us in the ass one day.
Yeah, that's a group of about, 100 people,
If that.
which equals 450 votes.
Exactly.
And the main thing we're going to pull at East St. Louis. So It's like these people know that this kind of election fraud is happening, and they laughed at it. It's like, yeah, we'll pull at East St. Louis. That's a different state from where
It's in Missouri,
they were campaigning.
Right, it's in Missouri. My first Army roommate was from East St. Louis. He had some heck of a stories. Now, I'll tell you somebody who's really coming through, and that's James O'Keefe and Project Veritas. I'm sure you've seen the video, Jack. If not, it's on the website, steelcityresistance.com, right underneath this episode. And, man, did he nail him. And Norway went off on Twitter, and I didn't know why he was going off until I went and watched the video. But you know, this is a major, major league failure. If you haven't watched the video, they went undercover to some employees at the DOJ and at the State Department. And these people basically work for the Democrat Socialist of America, and they were doing that work when they were supposed to be doing their work. And they were running license plates, finding.
Yeah, that was today's video, and that using a person working as a paralegal at the Department of Justice who is an activist organizer of protests for the Democratic Socialists of America.
Right.
Using access to find the home, the vehicle, ran the plates to make sure that the owner was the person they were looking for.
Spied on the house. Looked through the windows. Spied on the house.
Yeah.
Notice the bumper sticker on the car of the guy's kid's school.
It's beyond. I mean, this is how deep the swamp is. The deep state is not just the folks at the top. They are all the way from the top
rank
to the
and
bottom,
file.
because
Yeah.
you know these people are low level operatives, but they're saying, hey, basically we can't get fired, so we ain't worried.
And you know what I don't understand? Maybe the Army is different than the rest of the federal government. I don't think it is. I mean, it's the same rules apply. The same union applies. I fired dozens of people, civilians. Dozens. You catch somebody doing something. Matter of fact, I had one guy, he didn't get fired, but he got reprimanded and it got stopped. He was running for sheriff at work. And that's a clear violation of the Hatch Act. You know, and to say that you can't fire somebody's BS. All you have to do is have your facts in order, and you could beat that union, too. I did that several times also.
And that just tells you...
They never beat me.
The farther up the chain you go, you have people covering for all these folks on the lower level doing this. Because that was his second video. Yesterday was the guy at Department of State. Today was... the former lady that worked in thing, but she's the one getting fed information from people inside.
Yeah.
That she spreads to the media, and then you have this activist DSA working in the DOJ. But I did see an article that DOJ is opening an investigation on these videos that James O'Keefe and Project Veritas are putting out.
And that's the main reason that I'm excited. I think because James O'Keefe is owed about 5 or 6 Pulitzer Prizes. I mean, I would say to Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III to go back and get a screening of the video that James O'Keefe and company did on the election, because that's the people you should be putting in prison. You should be put.
Yeah, nothing ever happened. He was showing corruption in New Hampshire. They were just letting people come in and get a hotel room, vote.
The guy's name escapes me.
And then go back to their own state and vote. And you had Kramer.
Kramer, that's his name.
In Illinois.
Schakowsky.
Yeah, she's a congresswoman.
Right, from Chicago.
Yeah. And what his crew was doing, all this stuff out there, we don't hear anything about investigation, and that was deliberate, actual. And the ones he did just recently, I did see some activity on that started, but he was exposing the school unions up in, I think it was Jersey.
Right.
And how they were covering up for sexual predators or anything from the teachers. It was protecting the teachers against accusations from the students.
Of real crimes.
Yes.
And to the stage, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Carrie from Florida. Good evening, Carrie.
Carrie.
Good evening, Mr. Daly. Good evening, Mr. Mountain. How y'all doing tonight?
Doing good. What's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to correct you on something. You didn't fire a government employee. You fired a government contractor, which is a civilian.
No. Government employee. Not a contractor. I couldn't fire contractors. But I could fire government employees, Department of the Army employees.
Okay. Well, that's a new one on me. But the difference between the Army and the rest, the Army people are military, and they have to go by the same military guidelines and in other words, it's just like taking an oath. These bureaucrats, they don't take an oath.
Yeah, but Carrie, I'm telling you, first of all, bureaucrats do take oaths. Some of them. Second of all, we were all under the same civil service situation. We all had the same union, but there's when they say they can't get fired, it's because you have to do more than a private company owner does in order to make it happen. You have to have evidence, and you have to have a plan to if the guy can be rehabilitated or whatever. But I mean, if you have your ducks in order and the guy's really a dud, then you can do it.
Right. Well, the problem is, though, is that once you start doing that, then it's only a matter of time before people start looking at you.
Oh, yeah.
So what it is, it's this. It's just like the guy said in the video, because I watched the video. Everybody just rubber stamps everything. They're just there for a paycheck.
That's true.
That's it.
If you have somebody like that, if you have mediocrity in the chain of command, then you are absolutely right.
And it takes a long time to develop that level of where you're covered from top to bottom on doing wrong. Usually your supervisor is the one that's supposed to keep you in check, and then his supervisor is supposed to keep his supervisor in check. So these layers have been built over time to where they're basically ignoring it.
And there are people that were untouchable too.
That is, you just said it right there, Jack. They have consistently overlooked the little guys, and then they went up the next level, and then they went up the next level, and then they went up the next level, and then went up the next level. So who are the ones that you've got to report the crimes of the big guys? Well, you got to go through all the little guys, the layers that if they report the big guys, then the big guys are going to kick them out. You see what I'm saying? So it is an entire mindset of we are in charge. You can't do me anything because I've got the okay from the guy above me, and he's got the okay from the guy above him, so on and so forth. Kind of like the Obama era.
And in all actuality, it's the same at Exxon, and it's the same everywhere else. It's not just the government that's like that.
Right. It's the same way. You can whether it's the corporate institution or a governmental institution. I don't care if it's teachers or a business. If it's run that way, then it's going to fail. Eventually it's going to collapse in upon itself because people are going to get tired of being. It boils down to this: they believe that they are in charge.
If you look at it, we've seen the evidence of that just in the Department of Justice between the FBI and DOJ over the
Correct.
last year and a half of how high level. You're going all the way to the top with Comey, McCabe, Rosenstein. That's the very top of those organizations. Now, if you sit there and put that kind of swamp-like mentality across all agencies of the federal government, now you're talking about how big this swamp is.
The way that they've gotten away with it is they have convinced us that if they have a title that they're in charge, and you can't do anything about it. There's somebody in charge. When the founding document of the United States of America, which is the Declaration of Independence, says that we are in charge, and if we don't like the way that you work, we can remove you one way or the other, hence the Revolutionary War. So we were removing the English government and installing our own government. The problem is, again, we have been convinced, the vast majority of people have been convinced that there's somebody in charge. They have to do it. Well, if that person who is in charge, who's supposed to be in charge, chooses not to do anything, this is what you get.
No, you're right.
What's going to happen as soon as they declassify those FISA papers is all of the fakes and frauds and counterfeits, all the people who have refused to fulfill their oath, they're going to be removed, and we're going to put in people who will keep their oath. Last statement.
Good.
Last statement. Edmund Burke. And all that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. Thank you for your time, gentlemen. Loving the show.
All right. Thank you, Kerry, for calling. Call back anytime.
He's
right.
Point while we were talking about James O'Keefe, there's both videos so far. He has said something that is so telling. He's saying the right to privacy is held for the people. That's right. Us, the voters.
Transparency is for the government. That's right.
Transparency is for the government. And look who they tried to protect with their privacy is the government.
And, he really stepped his game up. He stepped his game up with the videography this time, too. He made it like a show. When he was walking through that warehouse and he had the guy sitting there at the desk, the lawyer and the other guy. I got a feeling this is his breakthrough moment. I hope so. I really do. Because to Kerry's point, a lot of times I'd have to talk to my colleagues, my peers, and because they would have this defeatist attitude. Oh, well, the union's going to get involved. I said, so what? Let the union get involved. What are they going to do? Just have your facts right.
And that's government employees with the union.
Right.
I never really liked that to begin with. I didn't join. And I know you and I were somewhat on the same, like a technician program, which a lot of folks don't know about. It's where you serve in the reserves or guard, and then you're full-time. We were in maintenance, so we were in a maintenance facility taking care of the vehicles
tanks,
for the guard,
weapons, and radios, and
yeah. But it's one of those limbo employment things. But no, and even in my area, in Virginia, if you didn't do your job, you could get fired easily.
No doubt.
But
I mean, if you don't have a supervisor that cares about the country and about what's going on, it's easy. It's much easier to look the other way and let something happen than it is to go down and do what you got to do.
Yeah, and it seems, in the military, we're protecting the country. We got to try to, in our branch, we're trying to maintain all of the equipment, the fleet, the rolling stock, the weapons, and make sure that's ready to go if we're called upon.
Right.
So it's looked at more seriously. Now, if you're looking at the bureaucracy in the federal government,
it looks now.
Like they don't, like that guy said in Illinois, I don't really care.
Right. And like, we care now, but before Desert Storm, it was a different story, boy. Desert Storm was a wake-up call to everybody. No doubt. All right.
Yeah, but there was a lot more responsibility placed on the Guard and Reserve when you had that faux President Clinton drawdown of the active duty. Basically, all he did was put half of the responsibility of a response to the Guard and Reserve, and then that's how the Guard and Reserve got, pumped up with equipment and responsibilities. That's why you have more of them deployed now than you did prior to then.
No, yeah, he drew down everywhere. But to call a spade, George H.W. Bush did the same thing. George H.W. Bush came out and took the combat mission away from the Army Reserve. It gave it 100% to the Guard. And then Obama came in and started messing with combat capability in the Guard and pulling it back to active duty. Anyway, we could do a whole show on that.
Oh, yeah.
Talk
about politics.
Yeah. This part here is the part that discourages me a little bit. Disturbs me, not discourages. Ex-CIA Chief John Brennan encourages deep state to defy President Trump's declassification order. And all I can say about that, because John Brennan's not the only person that is talking like this. You just heard Moonbeam, governor of the biggest state in the country, saying the same thing. And you've heard other congressmen, representatives, and senators saying the same thing. And you've even heard commentators say the same type of thing. President Trump needs to make a move. He needs to make a move, and he made the first one already by declassifying these documents. The next thing he needs to do is, at the instant he gets any kind of pushback or any kind of insubordination or anything like that, he needs to act like swinging a hammer. He needs to fire people on the news or either in a tweet. He needs to come down. He needs to reassert himself as the boss, in my opinion.
I agree. And if you looked at the Democrat half of the Gang of Eight, also penned the letter to the DOJ to say, basically make sure asking the same thing, to defy the order. In my mind,
that's illegal right there.
It is protecting. They're trying to hide the crimes that all of those people are complicit with. You start declassifying these texts and this information that President Trump has asked to declassify. Then you start bringing more. Instead of just this Stroke, Page, Comey, McCabe cabal, you're going to start drawing in some of these people that are sitting in Congress into this mix.
Oh, absolutely. And the deep state people that, the career people.
Yeah, no security clearance, Brennan.
Yeah, right.
Boom.
How's this guy still? It blows me away. This is something that it's prison time, man. It's no more screwing around. I've been really upset lately when I've been screaming at stuff I hear on the TV in the other room. I can't even sit in front of it and watch it anymore. But yeah,
that's a good move by President Trump. And I think that it's a good strategic thing. He's got to combat, all this junk that Democrats are putting out there as we head towards the November midterms. So he's countering it. He's putting it out there. We have a few, folks in the Congress that has wanted this information for over a year and a half. And they're. The Gang of Eight letters, I think it's Schumer, Feinstein.
It's all the top. It's the top ranking guys from both parties,
right,
in the House and the Senate.
Senator Warner from my state, and they're wanting to say this is under the guise of national security. No, it's their own personal security that they're trying to protect, and it's about time that this government doesn't utilize classifications to hide their crimes against this country.
Nope, you're right. And your senator, he's busting a move. He's getting ready to retire. And some people are saying that he basically didn't do anything his whole career. And he's trying to make a big splash now before he gets out so he can get one of those good lobbyist jobs. But we'll see what happens. He's doing good right now.
he's going to be there for a couple. The one we can get rid of this year is Senator Kane, the former running mate to
I
Hillary
hate
Clinton.
that guy there who has a son that's in Antifa. So did you bring something today?
Say again?
You got a story from down there?
I brought one. It's because most of this stuff's out there, but I did see an article. June of this year, there was a death threat to President Trump. And Breitbart had an update to this that said feds pursue would-be survivalist Trump assassin.
Wow. Is he from
federal
here?
Law, say again?
Is he from Pittsburgh?
I can't remember where he's from.
Because there was a guy like that from out here that they've been looking for him for a while.
Yeah, they still haven't found him. That's
Pennsylvania.
That's our federal law enforcement.
Yeah, right.
Woo. June, he said, here's how it starts out. Federal law enforcement is intensifying efforts to apprehend the fugitive who said he would put a bullet in President Trump's head.
Yep, that's him.
Authorities have located a stolen truck abandoned in Mansfield, Ohio, which they believe was used by the 26-year-old Sean Richard Christie. Christie is a wanted fugitive and has been evading authorities since June 19th when he threatened Northampton District Attorney John M. Morganelli's life as well as the president's. So, folks, you can check that out. He's still on the run, but if he's anywhere in the Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Virginia region, it's almost hunting season, folks.
That's true.
And you might see this guy. And so check his name out. Sean Richard Christie, get his visual out there if you're a hunter. Make sure that you know what this guy looks like. He's supposed to be armed and dangerous. He said he won't be taken down by law enforcement without putting up a fight. But, if he slips up and a deer hunter finds him, bag him and tag him, $20K is the reward.
There you go. And you can be sure his father won't be at the funeral because he wasn't there during his life either, I'm sure. Let's go to winners and losers for the week. Jack, what do you got?
I didn't know we were going to do winners and
losers.
That's all right.
On
Wednesday.
I'll do mine then, unless you have them.
I do it. The winner to me would be the guy in Texas, the state senate.
Now you're fired.
Yeah, but I'll let you expand on that. My loser is the Dems, and we covered it earlier. Dems stonewalling the Supreme Court confirmation on a 35-year-old accusation, but totally ignores accusations against DNC Congressman Keith Ellison, who is number 2 man at DNC and is a candidate for the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota. Wake up, Minnesota.
Yeah, you got to fix that up there, man. Little Mogadishus everywhere. Can't understand that. My winner for the week, I have 2 of them. One is Republican Pete Flores, who won the Senate District 19 seat in Texas on Tuesday, a crushing defeat for former state and U.S. Representative Democrat Pete Gallego. Flores and Gallego went head-to-head in the special election to replace former state Senator Carlos Uresti, who lost his seat after he was convicted of 11 felony charges. My other winner is James O'Keefe and America, because this guy needs to be running the media. I mean, he's doing what happened with him, it reminded me, and I would have tweeted about it, but I got to tell you guys, I was disconnected. I was offline for 3 days. I mean, I might have been online for 5-10 minutes here and there, but I didn't even mess with my computer. I was doing outside stuff. But I was thinking that he's what the old 60 Minutes used to be. James O'Keefe is the same as CBS 60 Minutes used to be when Chris Wallace's father was running it, and Morley Safer and all those guys. Now they got bad toward the end, but man, they would bust into your business if you were doing something. And there was an old adage back in the 80s that you were having a bad day if the 60 Minutes crew showed up at your job. You know.
Yeah, that's true, and a lot of people, I mean, on the left complain and say, "Oh, he just edits this, he edits it to way it looks good," but these are words coming straight out of the mouth of these people, and that's not scripted. These are themselves talk. Even one of the folks highlighted on the first two videos said, "This is like our Nixon deep throat deal."
And the other guy on the intro, you could hear somebody in the background saying, "Man, I feel like I'm getting O'Keefed."
Yeah, you should be wary. I mean, but then, I mean, the good thing is I saw a late report that the DOJ is looking in. I don't know if that's just, just basically saying something to say they're doing something and not doing it. I would hope that they would look into it aggressively, especially the one that's within their group. Now, if you have it on State Department, HHS was mentioned. I mean, and now somebody that worked during the Obama administration and went to private sector is still tied with folks within HHS. This is DC. This is the swamp. This is the folks we need out of there, and we need to be able to expose them. And I thank James O'Keefe and his crew for doing it. It's not.
Talk about balls, man. That guy, he's not afraid of anything. He went, like you said, he went right into the belly of the beast, into the teachers' unions meetings and parties. He was there. And these guys are evil. They are evil beyond the pale.
Yeah, and they always just use that one time he went into former Louisiana senator.
Right.
I forgot her name, but somehow he did something within her office.
Stabenow
and
or
that's
something?
why. No, not Stabenow, is in Michigan. But I'm sure the listeners can remember her. She was down there for Katrina and all that.
Yeah.
Big time Dem. I don't think she's in the office anymore. But he crossed the line and had to spend like a year in jail because he did something within the building. That's why he's like saying now, this is out there away from their work. It's in, I mean, most of the time it's in a restaurant or something where they're talking. And it's just like these people are so brazen that it's not even, they're not even, I mean, some of these questions that were asked by the undercover reporter, I'd be like, why are you asking me all these questions? These people don't care. They're ready to just talk. You know? So
and
if they talk like that, they're comfortable.
I've met James O'Keefe several times. I've interviewed him several times, too. He's a good guy. I could tell you a story about him, but we're running out of time here. I wanted to say one more thing before I get to my loser of the week, and that is, ladies and gentlemen, please do not become depressed by these fake polls that are out there. These fake polls are everywhere, and they're no different than 2016. Just ask yourself, you're all intelligent people, or you wouldn't be wasting your time listening to a show like this. If you weren't looking for knowledge or looking for what other people are feeling or whatever, I'm not trying to say I'm smarter than anybody, but what would make you think that the house is going to turn blue? What is going on in American and everyday Americans' lives that would cause them to throw this train off the track? The two Koreas got together in the last couple days and started agreeing on stuff. They started talking about demilitarizing the demilitarized zone. They started talking about all kinds of different things, and the president isn't even there. I mean, the financial gains that we're making every day, the jobs that people are getting. Why would anybody believe that that the government is going to flip back to communist? It's not going to happen. I left out one line in my winner about Republican Pete Flores winning the Senate seat in District 19 in Texas. This district has not seen a Republican hold this seat. in 139 years. It's a Democrat district. The guy got, the district has 20-some% of white people. The blue wave's not going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. Don't get Buffalo. Don't, because it's out there to make you depressed. And if you listen to the polls like they're worth anything, you're going to get depressed. And maybe for a percentage of you, you're not going to go vote. It's all BS. The media, Jack, has already bastardized itself. They're already past the level of no return. They have nothing to lose.
It's gonna ramp up there. I mean, I'm sure they've got other levels they're going to go to. But the thing you need to ask yourself, the issues that the Democrats, who have no solutions, mind you, all they are trying to do is put everybody into little tiny categories
against each other,
single issues against each other. But if you put yourself in the single issue of Constitution and the great United States of America, that's a single issue that's going to gather more votes than any one of those single issue non-starters that the Democrats live on. I mean, all of those things. You should be able to have life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So if their economy's booming, jobs are there, and you have money, income, and you can take care of yourself, that far outweighs all these little teeny nitpicky things that the Democrats think are more important than MAGA.
Right. And I wish that my Spreaker studio that I don't usually use unless I'm up here, at 6 minutes after 9, the chat room locks up. I can't see any new entries in the chat room. So I won't be able to.
Well, you got a quota up
I don't know, man. I don't know what happens. I don't know if there's a cache in there. I don't know. But I was thinking about saying something. I might earn the explicit tag here. But, you've noticed that the meme going around, you saw that lesbian Chinese American congresswoman say that, men need to just shut up and step up. I never heard that before, but you see the meme is white men are wrong on everything. That's like the thing that's going around now. And I started thinking about that, man. Go ahead.
Senator Hirono from Hawaii.
Hawaii, so she's Japanese. All right, but anyway,
Japanese heritage.
Yeah, she says that, and I got something to tell her, and to tell anybody else that's going down that same path. Some real factual truth about the matter. Being a white man myself, and listening to this garbage for the last year, white men have done more for the case of humanity than any other subgroup of people in the world. And I mean, all right, whenever anybody says that, the response is, well, they invented algebra in Babylon, or, they did this over here. Well, you know what? All right. But since America's been here, Europe before us, but especially since America's been here, you look at the contributions of white men to civilization, and nobody comes close. I'm not putting anybody else down, but to the people that are denigrating white men, kiss my ass, is what I have to say to you.
They're only doing it for one purpose, and that purpose is to try to create folks that hate themselves.
Exactly.
I mean, you're going to hate your own self for the color of your own skin.
You got it.
The group says so, and that's totally 100%. Wrong.
And so many of these white men of today have become white girls that they buy right into it. They'll sit there and teach a class about how bad they are.
If they
and
want
the white boys go home. The white boys go home and want to leave the door unlocked. Oh, come get my stuff. Come on, man. You got to get off of that.
where I'm from, and how I've always treated people is you treat me well, I'll treat you well. Doesn't matter who you are, what gender you are, what color you are. You know,
I taught my kids
trying to get along here.
I taught my kids. You don't watch skin color, you watch behavior. And if you see a group of people behaving in a certain way, you deal with it. But it's not about the skin. It's about what they do, what people do. White, black. That's right. All right, there's that. I didn't know if I was going to do that or not, but that was bothering me a little bit. I usually don't let stuff like that.
I mean, everything's flipped over. When we were growing up, it's sticks and stones will break your bones,
right.
But words will never hurt me. And now it's like anything that's sensitive and thing, you got to find a safe space, or you're a protected class of people. It's like, are you kidding me?
And if you try,
stand up on your own 2 feet and put on a real pair of jeans.
And you can't respond to it and win and stay within the confines of Nikita Khrushchev's political correctness. Because if you do, you'll lose. You have to be able to say what I just said. And nobody will say that. You're not going to get that anywhere else. And I'm not going to, you guys know my history. I'm not racist or anything like that. You've been listening to me for years. But by God, get up off the white man thing. I had enough of it. Get off it. Loser. CNN. CNN's Jake Tapper dedicates an entire segment to President Trump's penis. Stormy Daniels wrote a book and mentioned that in the book. Jay Tapper felt like that's what everybody wanted to hear about, I guess. So the loser is CNN.
Yeah.
Good.
No, it's just, I'm not surprised.
They've lost. They've lost all semblance of anything. I mean, my goodness, man, that's all you got? You're going to do a whole segment on that? Anyway, I saw that article and I had to bring it, Jack.
Oh, I'm so glad I don't watch mainstream media.
No, I don't either. I caught it online. I saw it on the Drudge Report.
And when I get the stories like that, I know I don't even have to read them. It's like,
oh, I did. It wasn't very long. It wasn't very long. She said it was distasteful or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, how can people get in touch with you? And any last thoughts?
Last thoughts. Thoughts and prayers out to those folks that are still suffering from the effects of Hurricane Florence. There's a couple more days for some folks to get through this. And I want to thank all the folks that volunteered, and still all of the people in all the law enforcement, the rescues, the FEMA, all the organization that they did to tackle this thing. Hopefully they'll be back on their feet in no time soon. You can find me on gab.ai, Jack at Mountain, and I'll be here with you folks in Spreaker chat room.
So let me ask you a question. When I tweeted the show out tonight, did you get that on Gab? Because I added at jackmountain.ai.
Let's see.
I was just curious. Nope. Okay, nope.
No, you're working on that one, huh?
Yeah, I'll have to figure that one out.
I posted the show on Gab, though.
Thank you. And I'm over there on Gab, too. I've just been offline here the last few days. But thank you, Jack. Great show. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr. on Twitter, Facebook, Gab, WeMe. I think that's it. But I don't know. I want to thank everybody for listening live on Spreaker, for hanging in there, adjusting to our frequent schedule changes. I'm trying to let Wayne Dupree have his entire audience and don't want to take any from him, although I don't know how long this is going to last. We'll see. So I appreciate you adjusting your schedules. Please go to steelcityresistance.com. become a patron. There may be a show on Saturday. I have to check with Norway to see if he's going to be available. I want to give you guys the Monday show back, especially to my patrons. But, eventually this is going to all work out. One final thought that I have concerning Kerry's call is the solution to the deep state, in my opinion, lies in the election results of the 2016 presidential election. When you have more than 95% of a district, and I'm talking about Washington, D.C., and Northern Virginia, that whole area that runs the government, voting 97% for Hillary Clinton, it's time to blow up D.C. It's time for some leaders to have some intestinal fortitude and start moving these agencies out of that area and turn D.C. into the poorest district in the country. Not 7 of the 10 richest counties in the country. That's what they're preserving. That's what the deep state is. That's why there's always construction there, because they don't know when the rest of the country's hurting, because they're a separate entity in Washington, D.C.
And that's exactly who Hillary Clinton was talking about
Exactly.
in her little spiel.
You're absolutely right. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for letting us into your life for 1 hour. We'll be back on Friday. God bless.
In prison, dinner was always a big thing. We had a pasta course, and then we had a meat or a fish. Paulie did the prep work. He was doing a year for contempt, and he had this wonderful system for doing the garlic. He used a razor, and he used to slice it so thin that it used to liquefy in the pan with just a little oil. It's a very good system. Vinny was in charge of the tomato sauce.
Ah, got the smell. Got three kinds of meat in the meatball. Veal, beef, and pork. Ah, good, but you gotta have the pork. Oh, that's the flavor.
I felt he used too many onions, but it was still a very good sauce.
Vinny, don't put any onions in the sauce.
I didn't put too much onions. Paul. 3 small onions, that's all I did.
3 onions? How many cans of tomatoes you put in there?
I put 2 cans, 2 big cans.
You don't need 3 onions.
Johnny Dio did the meat. We didn't have a broiler, so Johnny did everything in pans. I used to smell up the joint something awful, and the hacks used to die, but he still cooked a great steak.
Vinny, how do you like yours?
Rare, medium rare.
Medium rare. Aristocrat.
See, you know, when you think of prison, you get pictures in your mind of all those old movies with rows and rows of guys behind bars. But it wasn't like that for Wise Guys. It really wasn't that bad, except that I missed Jimmy. He was doing his time in Atlanta.
Vinny, give me 2 steaks while you're in there, all right, John? Sure enough, she goes in a
I mean, everybody else in the joint was doing real time, all mixed together, living like pigs. But we lived alone. I mean, we owned the joint.
Both batted them 2 son of a bitches. You couldn't recognize them.
Good, they deserved it.
Even the hacks we couldn't bribe would never rat on the guys that we did.
The neighborhood had respect. People loved one another. You left your doors open.
Sorry it took so long. The skinny guard's getting to be a real pain in the ass.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do something about that.
I took care of him.
All right, what'd you bring?
All right, bread.
Good. Fresh.
Vinny, I got your peppers and onions, salami, prosciutto, a lot of cheese.
Come on. What else?
Scotch.
Nice.
Some red wine.
Okay. Now we could eat.
I got some white, too.
Give me the white, too. Beautiful. Okay, boys, let's eat. Come on, it's ready. Vinny.
Coming up for some more bread.
Tomorrow we eat sandwiches. You gotta go on a diet, Vinny.
Sandwiches are a kid.
Believe me. Johnny? What do you mean?